informed electoral decisions.
Uchaguzi utakuja, utaenda, utakuja tena na utaenda. Kenya itabaki milele. Together we can make peace win in our elections. Not as one class, but as one nation. This message is brought to you by the government of Kenya.
Banki imeconfirm pesa zimeingia. Congratulations Sam, gari ni lako sasa.
Shukran. Oi boss, suniache insurance yako nitumie kabla nijipange.
Insurance ya gari haiwezi kuwa transferred kwa mtu mwingine.
Sina habari na nikuulize, hii comprehensive insurance inakava vitu gani?
Comprehensive motor insurance inakava gari linapoharibika wakati wa ajali pamoja na uharibifu wa mali ya mtu mwingine, gari likiibiwa au likichomeka. Pia inakava passenger wa gari lako na passenger wa lile gari lingine kunapotokea ajali.
Kwani umenisahau mimi kama driver?
Dereva hakui covered na comprehensive insurance, ila anajitafutia personal accident cover.
Umenichanua. Rose,
Yes.
hata nishughulikie hiyo insurance, nitakujia gari kesho.
Okay, sawa.
Well, it's 9 p.m. East African time from wherever you're watching us in Nairobi and around the globe. Good evening. My name is Mboya. This is KBC Prime Edition, giving you a 360-degree look at today's top stories, beginning right now with our headlines. Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred urges accountants not to shy away from exposing corrupt practices they come across in the line of duty. Azimio La Umoja and Kenya Kwanza transverse the country, wooing voters with pre-election promises. Plus, the Commission on Administrative Justice launches online portal for receiving complaints on service delivery in public entities. And plus, remember, every Tuesday we always bring you Kenya Decides. Right after this live broadcast, Safin Achieng is hosting a panel of distinguished guests, and tonight the topic they're discussing is the acid test of election financing. Our socials at KBC Channel 1, my Twitter handle at Tomboya24, hashtag Prime Edition. Straight to our story, where Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i is calling on accountants not to shy away from exposing corrupt practices they come across in their line of duty, saying that they are protected by law from any victimization. He made the remarks in Mombasa while addressing the Institute of Certified Public Accountants' 39th annual meeting. Dr. Matiang'i urged accountants also not to be used to cook books to satisfy the corrupt, saying that the professional elevates them to a higher calling to be faithful custodians of funds for development as well as service delivery, and should therefore not be used to enrich their self-interest. Michael Modiga opens our coverage with that report.
Matiang'i says the country is rich in resources that require proper harnessing and administration to achieve government development goals, including enhanced service delivery through dimensional approach of preservation, protection and prudent management of the same.
One role is that we must all join government and help my sister here, the Auditor General, and help my sister, the Controller of Budget, in fighting corruption. We will not preserve, we will not protect, and we will not prudently use public resources if we do not stand up and fight corruption in public service. The challenge of this country, and let me be frank with you, my brothers and sisters, our problems, if you are to list them, number 1, 2, and 3. Number 1 is corruption, number 2 is corruption, and number 3 is corruption.
The CS called on the institution to join government efforts in fighting corruption by name-shaming the rogue accountants who collude to steal from public coffers resources entrusted with them.
That we all look forward to a day when ISPAC will buy space in the papers and publish the names of the accountants they are removing from their roles and membership on account of cooking books. Because the problem that Dr. Margaret Nyakango deals with in county governments is not caused by ordinary people who sell sugarcane and sweet bananas in Suneka. It is caused by accountants. The people who cook books are your members, are the ones who got us all these problems. The challenges that, Mr. Chairman, you pointed out about bending bills in government, the reason why we have a problem with bending bills is because of resources being deployed in an allowable manner, and the people who are doing that are professionals.
The CS assuring the meeting that Kenya is safe and his ministry is ready to support IEBC in execution of its mandate of organizing and overseeing the August 9th polls.
Our role is to support that institution, how they guide us, and we are ready to support them. Please let's go forth and exercise our democratic rights to choose the leaders that we desire to have. But as we choose them, let us remember, in my view, the main platform in this country's election this year should be use of resources, integrity, and how we are going to fight the war against corruption if we are going to move forward.
ISPAC Chairman George Mukua said the institution is concerned with the rise of basic food commodities occasioned by rising of international oil prices, hence calling for the government to intervene.
Volatility in international oil prices in view of the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict, supply chain disruptions in the energy sector, and increased prices of agricultural inputs.
Mukua said the institution is re-engineering the profession to meet the needs of the ever-changing environment through strengthening the role of internal auditors in detection and prevention of corruption. Michael Mondiga for Prime Edition, Mombasa County.
Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i there speaking in Mombasa. Just a quick reminder, our sign language interpreter tonight is Carol Njoroge, and a little later on in this live broadcast, O'Brien Kimani will be bringing us the day's business, and our very own Karen Kibet will be in charge of the day's sport. Let's move on. Justice Anthony Mrima of the High Court in Mombasa has directed that a case challenging Mombasa gubernatorial aspirant Mike Mbuvi Sonko's decision to vie for Mombasa gubernatorial seat be forwarded to the Chief Justice to appoint a bench to hear it. This comes as the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission is restrained from processing Sonko's papers. Meanwhile, one of the petitioners in the case, Ndoro Kayuga, has been allowed to withdraw from petition. The other petitioner, George Odhiambo, shall proceed with the petition. Of course, we have our finger on the pulse of that story. Let's move on. People with disability will now be included in the Azimio la Umoja campaign team unveiled Monday to boost the countrywide hunt for votes. Azimio la Umoja presidential flag bearer Raila Odinga, while speaking right here in Nairobi, Kenya, promised to form an all-inclusive government if elected president. Odinga pledging to review the 2003 People with Disability Act to increase their access to employment opportunities from the current 5% to 10%. Nancy Okware is on that story.
Azimio la Umoja presidential hopeful Raila Odinga on Tuesday met people living with disability at the Nyayo National Stadium in Nairobi County. Odinga rallied the group that has over 1.5 million registered voters countrywide to support his presidential bid, even as he vowed to include them in his government.
We will work to include people with disabilities in the society so that there's no stigma, there's no discrimination. And we start now.
Odinga vowing to ensure that the group is included in his campaign team to mobilize voters across the country.
So we will constitute a team for people with disabilities which will go around the country with us as we move and try to talk to the people of Kenya. What we are going through is a liberation of our country, a beginning of the third and final liberation of our country, Kenya.
Odinga said his administration will focus on increasing employment opportunities for people living with disability, offering free education, introducing permanent tax relief, and accelerating access to assistive devices such as wheelchairs.
As a president, I will review the PWD Act of 2003 to increase the employment of PWDs in public institutions from the current 5% to 10%. President Raila Odinga will push the government to offer free education to all PWDs in public schools, colleges and universities.
Sisi tutapeleka kura penye mwenye anachali maslahi yetu, si ndio? Na tunani anachali maslahi yetu? Ni Baba Raila Amolo Odinga.
Hawa wapewe nyumba zao kwanza za ground floor, si za huko juu ati waanze kung'ang'ana mambo ya lift na nini. Kwa hivyo all those estates zinakuwa redeveloped, zikifanywa redevelopment hawa wapatiwe nafasi.
The money that we have to help the persons with disability or even affirmative action under NGAF is too little. We need to find a way to raise that money so that we can be able to help the persons living with disability a lot.
Kwa hivyo tungesitiza ya kwamba baba, going forward tunataka tuwe pamoja na wewe. Tuko na PWDs wengi lakini tunakosa financial support for resource mobilization. Tukienda mahali pengine unarushwa huko, wewe enda kwa upande wa PWD. Wengine wakipewa facilitation wewe unatemwa. Si ndio? Ni ukweli uongo? Ni ukweli uongo? Sisi tumeamua ni Baba Raila Amolo Odinga. Tuko na president mwingine. Tuko na mwingine.
Baba ametupigania Kenya hii. Na baba anapenda walemavu kwa sababu wakati mtoto yake alipata shinda kama ile tuko naye. Baba ndiye anajua walemavu ni akina nani.
But as Odinga wooed the community, his running mate Martha Karua was in Laikipia selling the Azimio la Umoja message to voters. Karua urged the electorate to vote leaders based on their manifesto and agenda for the nation.
Hatuna ubishi, tuko na amani peke yake. Na tunaambia wenzetu tuuse sera na sio matusi.
Karua defended Odinga's scorecard, saying he is fit to lead the nation owing to his efforts to liberate Kenya from poor governance and corruption.
Maisha yake yote amepigania Wakenya, haki za Wakenya, awe ndani ya serikali awe nje, haijalishi. Ukimpatia kiti hataweza kusahau maslahi yako.
Nashukuru Raila kwa kunipa ahadi. Ukimpigia kura ashinde, anataka niendeshe hiyo gurudumu la kilimo kama vile nimefanya.
Nasio Kwari, Prime Edition.
Azimio la Umoja flag bearer Raila Odinga, they are promising to review the PWD Act of 2003. Let's stay with politics. Deputy President William Ruto has pledged to prioritize infrastructure development and job creation for youth should he win the August 9th presidential poll. Ruto, who was in Taita Taveta and Kwale counties respectively, said that his vision for the country is clear and is centered on uplifting the lives of Kenyans. Meanwhile, NC party leader Musalia Mudavadi has vowed to deliver 90% of the Mulembe Nation vote to Kenya Kwanza in the general election, as Safina Chiengouma reports.
Deputy President William Ruto continued with his series of campaign rallies Tuesday, leading the Kenya Kwanza team in popularizing the bottom-up economic model in Taita Taveta and Kwale counties.
Tulishakubaliana hatutaki kuacha mtu yeyote nyuma. Wale wanyonge kati yetu ni lazima tuwashike mkono.
Among his key promises to the residents of the two coastal counties was infrastructural development and sustainable ways to create jobs for the millions of jobless young people.
Hapa Taita Taveta County tuko na zaidi ya vijana 70,000 wamemaliza shule, hawana ajira. Tunaelewana? Na lazima kuwe na mpango makusudi, deliberate, ya vile nafasi za ajira zitapatikana.
Ruto also pledged to fast-track the completion of stalled water projects in the region in his 100 days in office if elected president.
100 days ya kwanza hiyo mradi tutakuwa tumeweka sahihi ili ianze tupate maji ya irrigation ya matumizi nyumbani na pia ya mifugo ya watu wa Taita Taveta County.
Ruto was accompanied by a section of leaders in his outfit who pledged to collaborate in securing a win for the Kenya Kwanza Alliance in the August polls.
Tunataka mipangilio kabambe ya serikali ambayo itawezesha yule ambaye atakuwa waziri kutekeleza ama kuangalia shida zetu. Na ndani ya Kenya Kwanza, ile mkataba ambao tumeweka na Mheshimiwa William Ruto, it does not matter who becomes the Minister for Lands. Shida ya pwani itataluliwa.
Na lile jambo muhimu jamani ambalo nimejifunza kwa mikakati hii ni kwamba hii serikali kuanzia chini mpaka juu iwe ya Kenya Kwanza.
Meanwhile, ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi and his Ford Kenya counterpart Moses Wetangula pitched camp in the Western Kenya region to drum up support for the Kenya Kwanza Alliance. Mudavadi vowed to deliver 90% of the Mulembe Nation vote to Kenya Kwanza.
Sasa tunaambia tutapata 90% na tumeamua Ruto atashinda kwa raundi ya kwanza.
The leaders affirming that they have brokered an agreement to ensure that the alliance serves the interests of the residents of Western Kenya.
Tumeunda mkataba na tumesema katika hiyo serikali lazima jamii yetu na region yetu, tukiwa jamii ya Mulembe, tukiwa na Sabaot, Mount Elgon, tukiwa na Wateso, lazima tuwe ndani ya hiyo serikali, tuwe na shares zetu.
The leaders held rallies in different areas, including Lumakanda, Teso North, Huisero, Shinyalu, Hamisi, and Mount Elgon. For Prime Edition, I'm Safin Aching Ouma.
Reminder, right after this live broadcast, Safina Chieng will be hosting a panel of distinguished Kenyans, and the topic of discussion tonight on Kenya Decides is the acid test election financing. So do join her when the clock strikes 10. Let's move on. A section of political leaders from Elgeyo-Marakwet County have opposed the proposed six-piece voting by United Democratic Alliance leaders. Led by National Vision Party Anthony Chelimo, the leaders claim if the formula is adopted, then Kenyans will be denied their constitutional right to choose their leaders. Kevin Washira reports.
Speaking in Elgeyo-Marakwet County, National Vision Party leader Anthony Chelimo said Kenyans should be allowed to elect their leaders of choice and not a party. The National Vision Party is against the directive to their supporters that they should vote for UDA candidates in all 6 positions.
That is like imposing leadership on us. If the leadership on the other side is not okay, so in this area we know for the voting of DB, His Excellency the Deputy President, already it's like in the box. It's only the counting that's remaining. So what we are doing is only we really need the alternative leadership within our county.
Elsewhere, the Jubilee Party has assured its candidates that there will be no zoning of regions in the Azimio la One Kenya Coalition Party. Jubilee Party Chairman Nelson Zuya has encouraged all aspirants vying for different posts to continue their campaigns.
Kwa sababu utakuta ya kwamba mara nyingi the youth especially young ladies wamekuwa wameachwa nje ya uongozi, na tunaona ya kwamba Mheshimiwa Toya amechukua hatua ya kuwahusisha, amewahusisha kikamilifu katika kampeni zake, na ako na mipango ya kuhakikisha ya kwamba katika uongozi wake atawasaidia.
Meanwhile, at least 7,000 learners in Roysambu constituency have benefited from bursaries amounting to 48 million shillings issued under the National Government Constituency Development Fund. Speaking at Kahawa Primary Grounds, Roysambu MP Dirango Waihenya asked the residents to give him a third term in Parliament to complete ongoing projects, including the construction of a polytechnic and 5 new schools.
Hapa Kahawa tunajenga secondary school. Githurai tunaongeza secondary school ingine ya boys. Ndio tuweze, hiyo eneo ni kubwa zaidi na ina vijana wengi. Tunataka kuhakikisha vijana wote, wasichana wote ambao wamehitimu shule za primary hapa wasikose mahali nafasi ya secondary school huku kwetu. Hatutaki wawe wakipelekwa huko Nandi, wapi, Kisii ati kutafuta shule za upili huko.
Vishoku Washira, Prime Edition.
Now, moving on, Kenyans will now be able to submit complaints on services delivered by public entities to the Office of the Ombudsman and track actions taken online. This is after the Commission on Administrative Justice launched the Complaint Management Information System to ease access to members of the public. Justice Joki Dungu, who launched the system, termed it a milestone in fast-tracking access to justice as well as enhancing service delivery. Yusuf Farah puts that story into perspective.
Kenya's justice system has today received a boost in its service delivery following the launch of the Complaint Management Information System, a digital portal by the Commission on Administrative Justice that has digitized lodging of complaints on the digital space. Lady Justice Njoki Ndungu, who represented Chief Justice Martha Koome, presided over the launch, where she termed this launch as a game changer in the service delivery to members of the public, even in the most remote of places.
I think technology is the future, clearly, especially for watchdog institutions like yourself, Chapter 15 commissions, where you're oversighting public service and government bodies. Technology is the key.
It has capacity to receive complaints and requests for information under the Access to Information Act.
Sentiments echoed by the Commission's CEO, Mboya, who thanked the German Agency for International Cooperation that was a key player in the run-up to setting up and running of the portal. Mboya added that the country is in a shift towards a digital era and that government ministries should follow suit for faster and easier service delivery.
The Commission is also empowered to initiate inquiries into matters of maladministrations and failures of government on its own motion.
It is our hope that this digital platform will enable the public, especially the vulnerable members of society, including women and youth.
A pilot project on the portal was done from the 1st of April and the feedback has been good. With an account and at the touch of a button, members of the public will now be able to not only access information but also lodge their complaints. The portal has been termed as cost-effective and efficient on service delivery. Yusuf Farah reporting for Prime Edition.
Well, we take our first break. We'll be back with more, including that story that is in the lips of many, the Mirema shooting, the update. Stay with us.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
To get John chapter 11 as your skiza tune, dial *811 *965#.
I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die. John chapter 11, verse 25.
To get John chapter 11, dial *811 *965#. To get John chapter 11, dial *811 *965#.
Our arts and entertainment industry has evolved over the years.
It is at such times that our destinies are written. Will we rise up in courage or die in cowardice?
Who are the movers and shakers in film and theatre? Get trendy as we review locally produced films and stage drama every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on Cinemas and Theatre.
Brought to you by the Kenya Film Commission. Film Kenya. Capture Africa.
And a hashtag Prime Edition. Into the corridors of justice now. The main suspect in the shooting of a man at Mirema in Kasarani, Nairobi, Kenya, will be detained for 14 days to allow police conclude investigations. Dennis Karani Gashoki, who surrendered to detectives Monday, is highly suspected to have been the driver of the vehicle that was used by the killers to escape. All that in the scales of justice.
Dennis Karani before Milimani Senior Principal Magistrate Karo Muthoni.
Of June to confirm if the investigations are complete.
He will be remanded for 14 days at Kasarani Police Station as police pieced together his involvement in the daylight murder of Samuel Muvota.
Your Honor, I'm before you to make an application to have the respondent be detained in Kasarani Police Station for 14 days to enable us complete investigation, Your Honor.
The investigating officer told the court that the crime was committed by more than 2 actors and that Karani was highly suspected to have been the driver of the vehicle that was used by the shooters to flee the scene, and they have information that Karani possesses a firearm. Therefore, they need time to travel to Mombasa, Nakuru and Kiambu, where he is said to have houses for further investigations. The suspect will appear in court on 9th of June. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court has published amended rules for the presidential election petition in the event of a presidential election petition in the upcoming general elections. The rules published in the Gazette notice dated 5th of May bars the litigants and their advocates from expressing their opinion on the merit, demerit or predict the outcome of the petition in any manner that would prejudice court proceedings until judgment is delivered. A breach of this shall amount to contempt of court. Finally, Keroche Breweries Limited Chief Executive Officer Tabitha Karanja has denied ownership of the company, saying she's just its employee. The Keroche boss revealed this in an affidavit in reply to a suit filed by a Nakuru politician seeking to bar her from contesting the Nakuru Senate seat in the August general elections, citing the company's run-ins with the Kenya Revenue Authority. For Prime Edition, I'm Lynn Chalo.
Well, there's an item here on security, or better still, lack of it. Members of Parliament have faulted the Ministry of Interior for what they term failure to curb the perennial banditry attacks in Kerio Valley as well as Marakwet West. The lawmakers were reacting to a statement by the chairperson of the Security Committee, Peter Mwadhi, that the government will not compensate families affected by the recent killings in the region. Here is that report.
Because he said the answer is not watertight.
A response to a statement on Marakwet West killings sought by area Member of Parliament William Kisang attracted divergent opinions from MPs who feel the government is not committed to putting an end to the perennial banditry attacks in the area.
The government has commenced the vetting and recruitment of process of local NPRs to support the National Police Service. This is in recognition of the fact that local residents are more conversant with the terrain and, more importantly, that they have a greater understanding of the local dialect. Unfortunately, the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government has no vote to cater for the compensation of the affected families.
they are telling us that vetting of NBR is going on, and this is what we were told about 3 months ago. So I don't know how long does it take to do conduct.
According to the legislators, the delay by the government to redeploy National Police reservists has caused untold suffering to the people.
They removed NBR 2018 up to now, and people are being killed every week. They kill people every week. This week alone, we have lost 4 lives. A week ago, we lost about 6 lives in Marakwet East.
Bwana Spika, nafikiri ikiwa watu ya Kerio Fale wanaumia vile mambo imekuwa, kusema mpangilio inafanywa ya kufanya vetting, nafikiri hiyo ni kudhulumu wananchi wa Kerio Fale.
15 people are reported to have lost their lives in the last 2 weeks, with hundreds of livestock stolen.
If they cannot compensate, then they need to take care of the people. They need to protect our property, take care of the people.
Where we are failing in this house is the Committee of Implementation. That the Cabinet Secretary tables a response through the chair in this house, Mr. Speaker, that he has done this, he has done that. It is upon the Committee of Implementation through the chair to follow up that what actually the Cabinet Secretary has given us a response in this house is implemented on the ground.
The Ministry of Interior says plans are underway to arrest culprits and recover the stolen livestock, conduct forceful disarmament, and engage locals to intensify intelligence. Kamchemenza for Prime Edition.
Lieutenant General retired Lazarus Sumbeyo was the commander of the Kenya Army at the time the military was going through great transformation. During his days as commander, he earned the nickname ZT for his zero tolerance to corruption. Nisi Imano paid the retired decorated general a visit at his home here in Nairobi, Kenya. And here now is Lieutenant General Sumbeyo's story in our weekly feature, Military Tales.
"40 years are gone by since the 1982 aborted coup that had targeted to overthrow President Moi from office. Lieutenant General Lazarus Sumbeyo and his late brother Elijah Sumbeyo, then the presidential escort commander, played a critical role in securing President Moi and quelling the attempted coup.
In 1982, I was posted to the Air Force. I was then at the rank of major. I was promoted to a lieutenant colonel and was in charge of personnel.
Before cockcrow on the fateful August 1st, General Lazarus received a call from his late brother Elijah Sumbeyo, who was then the presidential escort commander.
So at 5 o'clock in the morning he rang. And you know, that time there were no mobiles. We were using telephone. So I picked the phone and he said, "Are you still sleeping?" I said, "Yes, I'm still sleeping." He says, "No, don't sleep. The government has gone." I said, "Gone with who?"
General Lazarus then took off for State House immediately, together with 6 armed military soldiers.
I went to Cabernet, to the State House first, and then to Kabarak. And at Kabarak, I found Mzee very agitated.
When he got there, he immediately asked to communicate with the police headquarters, a thing that did not happen.
They said Nanyuki is not friendly. So I told him, "Let's get out of this house. We can be bombed." He said, "No, I will die in my house."
Mzee Moi refused to leave his State House aboard, but eventually convincing and relocating the president in 3 civilian cars with presidential escorts armed to the tooth.
My idea at that time was to connect with the military because they have a system of radios that used to join. We could join into a communication system. But unfortunately, one of the vehicles, the relay system, had an accident in Timboroa. And so we could not we could not relate.
The army eventually neutralized the coup, and the president was taken to State House, Nairobi, where a presidential address had been planned for the president Moi to assure the country he was in charge.
Nataka niseme kwamba yale yaliyotokea leo asubuhi kwa muda mfupi iliyoletea wananchi wasiwasi mwingi sasa imeangamizwa na jeshi letu la nchi kavu na polisi.
From 1997 to 1999, Sumbeyo served as special envoy to IGAD for the Sudan peace process.
I want us to be patient. The parties have promised us that they will sign it today.
I knew a little bit of what was going on. So in 1997, out of the blue, the late President Moi appoints me an ambassador and a special envoy. Not retired from the military, but given this job of carrying out mediation for the Sudanese.
General Lazaro Sumbeyo was the chief mediator of the Naivasha peace process, which sought to resolve the war between the Sudanese government and the Sudan People's Liberation Movement. In July 2002, he led the warring parties into signing the Machakos Protocol, a groundbreaking agreement on the difficult issues of self-determination for the South and separation of religion and state.
Put in a lot of nights without sleep and going to lengths to ensure that the people of that country got peace.
Lieutenant General retired Sumbeyo joined the Kenya Army in 1967 as a cadet officer.
My father had always wanted one of his sons to be in the army. Because my father himself was in the army in 1922 to 1934. And he wanted a son to feel how the army is.
Sumbeyo attended the prestigious Royal Military Academy Sandhurst and rose through the ranks to become the commander of the Kenya Army in 2000.
In 1999, I went to do my master's in international relations in Royal College of Defense Studies. When I came back to the army, I found a very different army, an army that had already deteriorated in discipline. They had lost touch with training, and so I had to think of how to revive this army.
At the time of his appointment, the armed forces was in the flux of changes initiated by the then Chief of General Forces, General Daudi Tonje.
By the time I left the army, it had trained. The army had proper equipment, had proper uniforms, and that's what a soldier is. And discipline had returned.
In addition to purpose and confidence, Sumbeyo brought another critical factor with him as army commander. He brought the army back to basics.
Soldiers were in tatters. They were not the uniform they were wearing, were torn and of low quality. And the boots were wearing were coming off, the heels were coming off. So nobody was serious about proper equipment.
Lieutenant General Sumbeyo was, in addition to being feared, deeply respected. Hence, he was referred to as ZT or Zulu Tango, meaning zero tolerance.
You must have heard the stories about the army, because when I was in the army, I had a nickname called Zulu Tango, zero tolerance. Officers in the army can attest that I think I made a difference. There was reform, total reform in the army.
Reporting for KBC from Lavington in Nairobi County, Amnesty Imano.
asante. Hii ng'ombe itatoa maziwa mengi kabisa. Sasa shida ya school fees imeisha tena. Chukua hii. Hebu nikuulize, hii maneno nasikia ya bima ya elimu inaweza kuonekana mtu ana process ya kuchukua insurance cover yote ni rahisi. Hata niko na cover ya gari yangu. Kwanza unajaza proposal form kama hii na uijaze wewe mwenyewe, na kama haujui kusoma uijaze na mtu. Hakikisha ile majibu umepatiana ni sahihi na ni ya kweli. Pia thibitisha insurance cover imeangalia masilahi yako, na usiwahi sign proposal form ambayo haijaandikwa kitu chochote. Pia ukumbuke kujitolea fotokopi yako. Sasa wacha nianze hiyo process. By the way, ukisubmit hiyo proposal form, uhakikishe umepatiwa policy document. Uisome na uielewe. Hiyo ndio thibitisho ya kuwa una bima.
This could be you, your sister, brother, daughter, son, or a friend. Say no to gender-based violence. Report any form of violence to toll-free number 1195 or to the nearest police station. Be a hero and be safe. This message is brought to you by the Government of Kenya.
As campaign intensifies for the upcoming general election, what does all this mean for you, the voter? What do the candidates have to offer? How prepared are agencies charged with the election process? Join John Kuria and Safina Chieng on Kenya Decides. This and every Tuesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as we unpack elections 2022 with a panel of various stakeholders. Make informed electoral decisions.
Thanks indeed for joining us. This is Business News. My name is O'Brien Kimani. Let's talk about business. Well, maize flour, milk and bread might be exempted from tax increases as proposed by Treasury in the Finance Bill if the Parliament adopts the National Assembly Finance Committee report. The committee says the three are basic commodities and any tax increment will cause inflation and reduce citizens' purchasing power. This is among a raft of tax reduction measures that the Parliamentary Committee is seeking to scrap in the tax bill.
In his budget speech earlier this year, Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani proposed a raft of tax measures that he said would assist the government to raise over 2.1 trillion shillings to fund the budget. The National Assembly now says some of the tax increases as proposed by the Treasury might be counterproductive. The National Assembly Finance Committee recommends that Treasury exempt maize and cassava flour, bread and milk from a 16% VAT increase. The Gladys Wanga chaired committee says an increase in the price of 4 commodities, which have been increased by a combined average of 16% over the past few weeks, will greatly affect the local mwananchi. Parliament has also opposed the increase of excess duty on processed juices and proposed the excess rate be reduced to 13 shillings. Bottled water has also been spared from the tax increases, with Parliament advising the rates remain unchanged from the last financial year. The Finance Committee is also proposing the scrapping of the requirement for one to deposit 50% of the disputed tax amount prior to appealing a tax appeal tribunal decision. The committee says the requirement is unlawful and might deny justice to aggrieved entities if the disputed amount is not raised in addition to the loss of working capital. Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
Real estate developers are calling for tax rebate for materials used in the construction of green certified buildings. The developers are saying this will help the country make strides in combating climate change and reduce carbon emissions in urban centers. Purple Dot General Manager Said Jiten Kerai says tax incentives coupled with conducive building environment will propel Kenya's status as a green building hub.
According to the United Nations Environmental Programme UNEP, real estate contributes up to 30% of global annual greenhouse gas emissions. In Kenya, as of 2021, there were 43 certified green buildings in the country, a 100% rise from 2020. This indicates that Kenyan developers are increasingly adopting sustainable building practices.
Now we're seeing a lot more of this green building being filtered down to everyone. And the idea is that green should be for everyone, right? Green is not an expensive technology. Yeah, I think it's growing. A lot of our work with Kenya Green Building Society, we run a lot of education programs trying to train professionals, students, government on green buildings and green building practices, technologies. It's a journey. It's taking some time.
However, uptake of green building practices is still slow, owing to what developers say is a lack of incentives to allow the growth of energy-efficient buildings.
And I think it is also high time right now that we, as developers and as the Kenya Development Association, we can engage with the government and see what they are able to offer in terms of benefits or rebates to make sure that a lot more people take up the challenge of going green.
Speaking at the launch of Purple Dot International's EDGE-certified 2.5 billion shillings 15-story Purple Tower building, stakeholders say such buildings still compete well in the scramble for Nairobi's Grade A office space.
And I think it's very important that we kind of differentiate the issue of oversupply based on zoning, especially with regards to the places we work with. If you look at Westlands, for example, I think that still has an incredible demand for office supply space, and it has been for the past decade or two, mainly.
EDGE certification is a benchmark initiated by the International Finance Corporation, IFC, to encourage the design and construction of sustainable, resource-efficient buildings in emerging markets.
Excellence in design for greater efficiency does not only apply for large commercial buildings, but can also apply to you as you build your house in the city or in the countryside. Alan Aoko, Prime Edition.
Well, our reporter there, Aoko, explaining the whole concept of green building, which is becoming the fad around, the world over. The government has embarked on a multi-billion shillings aquaculture project targeting arid and semi-arid areas. The project will be undertaken in collaboration with the Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute. The institute has already set up a fingerling breeding center in Kilifi, which will help supply farmers with fingerlings.
The government has been carrying out research in arid and semi-arid areas to ascertain whether they are conducive to aquaculture farming. This is a part of the Blue Economy initiative that seeks to tap the country's water bodies for social economic development. Already the government has set aside a 15 billion shilling kitty to fund aquaculture activities in 25 counties. The Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute is already working with the county governments to roll out various community aquaculture farms, with the first one being launched in Kilifi.
Lakini kutokana na mradi huu ambao tuko nao tumeuzindua hivi leo, ambao nimekuja mimi na viongozi wa shirika la Kitanda kutoka Belgium ambao limetoa msaada pamoja na shirika letu la Kemfree. Tumekuja kuzindua huu mradi ambao ni kielelezo katika uchumi samawati katika maeneo kame. Tumeweza katika utafiti wa wanasayansi wetu kuona kwamba inawezekana kuweza kufuga samaki katika maeneo kame.
Kemfree will provide the technical know-how among the selected communities with a view to supporting Kenya's blue economy strategies.
Fursa moja kubwa sana ambayo inaweza kutusaidia hata kuanza kusafirisha hawa samaki nchi za nje. Kwa sababu ukiangalia zao ambao liko hapa Kavunzoni leo, na kama linaweza kupatiwa shime zaidi na serikali gatuzi na ufadhili wa kisayansi na kiufundi tofauti kutoka kwa shirika ambao limebobea kwa masuala hayo, ambao serikali kuu inapeana pesa kwa masuala kama hayo. Nina imani kuu sana ile njia ya zamani ambao watu walikuwa wakisema kwamba sehemu kame zinastahili kupelekewa chakula, zinaweza kuwa za kwanza kutoa chakula katika sehemu kame kupeleka zile sehemu ambazo zilikuwa na zinasema ziko na chakula.
So far, Kemfree has built a major research station in Shimoni area of Kale County to produce fish fingerlings and stop the reliance on wild catch found in the sea that has been used by many fish farmers in the region.
That this was only through these partnerships. We had contact with Kemfree, and Kemfree did just a wonderful job. They came here on the site. They even build up awareness for fish farming because we have a borehole here that gives salty water, and so we can use the salt water for the people use it for washing, they use it for their cattle that drink it, but we had another opportunity that's to use it for fish farming.
The government has earmarked the aquaculture farming as part of poverty alleviation strategy under the 2009 economic stimulus project launched by the government. Many farms failed due to a lack of adequate research and use of outdated farming practices.
Well, now from aquaculture to water harvesting, and there is a caveat here. The next story has a lot of figures, so you need to pay attention. And farmers across the country have resorted to harvesting and storing rain runoff water to sustain agricultural activities around the year. This is expected to supplement the government's target of constructing 125,000 household irrigation water storage facilities to harvest and store about 125 million cubic meters of water that would put 125,000 acres under irrigation. As Nduta Mukami narrates, the practice has taken root in Nakuru, where harvested rain runoff water is supporting various agricultural activities.
Rainfall patterns across the country have changed with the long rainy season becoming shorter, an offshoot of climate change that has seen farmers struggle to maintain their livelihoods. This has also seen farmers in Molo, Nakuru County devise ways of making terraces to curb soil erosion and harvest rain runoff water. Their mechanisms filter soil from surface runoff and direct water to retention ditches and storage tanks, which they use to irrigate their farms. Extension services have been incorporated through a sustainable land management program that has seen 514 farms rehabilitated to support high-yielding crops and pasture. Part of the program entails the desilting of small multi-purpose water pans filled with eroded topsoil from farms in Molo, Njoro and Bahati.
Hii maji nyumaye itakuja isaidia watu na irrigation, itasaidia watu na domestic use, kwa sababu this is a semi-arid area, hawezi wakajimudu kimaisha, kwa sababu hata mkipanda matunda kuwe na jua yote inaharibika. Hakuna maji ila tunaweza sema ati lazima ati hiyo maji inapatikana kwa Bahati na about 3 kilometers from here ndio unaweza pata maji.
Experts are advising those living in rain-deficient areas to shift from rain-dependent agricultural practices to sustainable methods of food production like water harvesting and greenhouse technologies.
Putting in mind that climate change is one of the determining factors when it comes to food production. So in Africa, people have been encouraged to actually embrace nature-based solutions which help to cushion the food production. That is in terms of farmers embracing smart agriculture.
He is urging county governments and partners to invest in rainwater harvesting programs and scale up awareness among smallholder farmers about water harvesting to support agriculture and protect fragile ecosystems.
Rainfall harvesting has been one of the mechanisms that farmers have been advised to engage in. Secondly, also farmers have been advised to engage in what we call greenhouses, whereby farmers end up growing crops in regulated or modified kind of environmental conditions, and this will help them to actually increase their cropping solutions. These are what we call adaptation measures that help us to cushion ourselves against the impacts of climate change.
Nduta Mukami for Prime Edition.
Away from those baffling numbers, and the National Treasury is now proposing the creation of a mineral royalties collection account for receiving all mineral royalties. The account will help facilitate the transfer of mineral royalties to the national government, county government and communities. The Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani is further proposing that 70% of all royalties collected be transferred to the consolidated fund. The public has until the 30th of June this year to submit their recommendations to the Treasury.
The proposed draft framework seeks to provide the budgeting of mineral royalties at the national government, county government and communities. The proposed formula will provide a clear flow of minerals royalties from the national government to the communities. The revenue sharing agreement, as per Section 183 of the Mining Act 2016, allocates 70% to the national government, 20% to the county government and 10% to the community. In order to facilitate the transfer of mineral royalties to the national government, county governments and the communities, in accordance with the provisions of the Mining Act 2016, National Treasury proposes the opening of a county mineral royalties account into which 30% of all mineral royalties collected shall be deposited for ease of sharing with respective beneficiaries. The account will also be in charge of receiving all mineral royalties, into which 70% of all mineral royalties collected shall be transferred to the consolidated fund. Under the proposed framework, the Ministry of Mining shall ensure the royalties are remitted to the National Treasury coffers by the end of every month. The Ministry shall also prepare and submit to the National Treasury by the 15th day of every quarter a schedule indicating amounts due to the county governments and communities from which the royalties were collected and minerals against which the payments were made. The National Treasury shall then transfer the 30% from the county mineral royalty account within 14 days upon receipt of the schedule to the respective county revenue fund. The 10% entitled to the communities shall be transferred through the respective county governments for purposes of financing projects, interventions as identified by communities. Each county government shall open a special purpose account for depositing the 10% mineral royalties share with communities. Kenya plans to exploit its natural resources like gold, oil and coal, among others, to steer socio-economic development in the country. The public has until the 30th of June this year to submit their recommendations to the National Treasury. Caroline Jenga 4, Prime Edition.
At that point, we put a cap to business news this evening. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. The Forex report is coming up next, and thereafter, we have the sports news with the lady herself, Marakwet Express. And if you like it, Karen Kibet. From me and the business team, thank you and have a good night.
As campaign intensified for the upcoming general election, what does all this mean for you, the voter? What do the candidates have to offer? How prepared are agencies charged with the election process? Join John Kuria and Safina Chieng on Kenya Decides. This and every Tuesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as we unpack Elections 2022 with a panel of various stakeholders. Make informed electoral decisions.
Welcome back. Let's now talk sports. My name is Karen Kibet. Now, the Kenya National Rugby Sevens team has been placed in a tricky Pool B against Ireland, Argentina and South Africa for the London leg of the HSBC Sevens World Series set for this weekend. Kenya's Shujaa are currently 12th with 38 points in the series, with 2 legs left in London this weekend and LA in August.
Following a dismal performance in Toulouse where they picked up just 1 point, the Kenya Sevens team will open their campaign in London this weekend against the Flying Ireland, who reached the final in Toulouse, before playing Argentina and South Africa's Blitzboka in Pool B. Fiji headline Pool A alongside USA, Spain and Wales, while Pool C has France, Australia, New Zealand and Canada. Pool D will see Samoa, England, Scotland and Japan battle it out. Kenya's Shujaa are currently 12th with 38 points with 2 legs remaining this season. Meanwhile, Vihiga Queens defender Phoebe Okech has been voted one of the best players in the Kenya Women Premier League. Okech was instrumental in helping the Queens of Vihiga defensively, with her outstanding performance assisting the team to the top league. Okech was instrumental in helping the Queens of Vihiga defensively, with her outstanding performance assisting the team to top the league. Head coach Boniface Nyamu was appreciative of Kefwa for initiative, which he noted has upscaled the league's competitiveness among players. Okech walked home with a personalized trophy and 10,000 shillings. Elsewhere, this year's Eldoret Rally will be a mixed surface contest and will revolve around the iconic Cherangani Hills of the Great Rift Valley region on Saturday. Cars will be flagged off outside Rupa Mall in Eldoret, then proceed to Cheptiret Primary and lastly to St. Jacinta, which will be the last speed test and will serve as the event's power stage where the top fastest KNRC competitors will secure bonus